Well, we're very much post Scotland car camping trip now. Feel a little bit of a loose end and I'm missing it and I wish I could go back. I've been doing some follow-up research since, and I found out that that cottage that you could see from Torduff Point may well have been owned by one of my ancestors. I found some, I'm not sure what they were, the tenancy rolls or something similar to that, and you can actually see Torduff Point listed with the farmers who own the land, and it's like a joint ownership. And there's a John Rome there, and what I thought was actually a lock at the at Torduff Point, I think is actually the name of that group of cottages. And on that record, it kind of demonstrates that they were derelict even by the 1850s. So that cottage has been hanging in a long time, and I'm surprised they didn't bulldoze that when they built the East Riggs site at the start of World War One. But anyway, so that was really interesting. So I've been having fun just filling in some of the gaps, and now I feel like I need to go back and try and see what else I can find, because now I've been and now I see what the area's like in my mind. It works better. I've also had a breakthrough, which, I don't know, maybe my trip up there was good luck, I'm not sure. Someone I've been looking for in my tree for 20 years and not been able to find, which is one of Simon and Ruth's daughters, who she had her first 4 children out of wedlock, I presume by all different fathers, and her mother was looking after all of her children, and in between census returns I was finding her as a housemaid in various places, which may be why she ended up pregnant so many times, because young girls, possibly naive, living in households with male servants and male heads of household, were often victims of what you might call abuse, and then they'd have to leave. I see a lot of it in my tree with girls who have gone into service in their late teens, and then they turn up with children and no husbands. But anyway, so I finally, after something like 20 odd years, through ancestry and through DNA, I did the DNA test years ago, and so every so often people pop up who are connected to the tree, and someone came up and I looked at their tree, and there she is. So 2 years after she had her 4th child, she got married, had another 6 kids, and it seems like they spent their entire lives in Keswick. I've been to Keswick. As kids, we were taken on holiday by our parents, often to the Lake District. Spent a lot of time in the Lake District, around Keswick, Kendal, Ambleside, Windermere, all these places. So it's weird knowing that we've been to Keswick so many times, and they're living there and are probably buried in the churchyard there. So that might be a return trip to go and see if I can find her. I haven't found her on Find a Grave, but hey ho, it's all fun, it's all interesting. Getting away from it all though, being out on that trip, it's nice to get disconnected. Although I have my phone with me, I don't check the news, I don't click on Instagram and all that sort of thing. And there's a nice detox to it, and I wish I could, I do it, and I know when I've been reading the news too much and it starts to get to me, and I just stop looking. It's as simple as that. If you feel that something's bearing down on you and it's starting to prey on your mind, just stop looking. So I've had a bit of that this week, because there's a lot in the news at the moment about AI and about all the things that are going on with that. And I would be willing to put all my retirement, all my savings money into a bet that AI is going to be humankind's downfall. all seen Terminator. We all know about Skynet. We all think that that's it's all sci-fi. It's happening. I mean, when you read about some of the things that are going on with AI, and I was listening to a podcast, the Adam Buxton podcast the other day, with Tom Hanks, and about how they're talking about having to write up legal agreements to stop people making movies using them created through AI. So you could make a Tom Hanks movie where he's in his 30s and it's all been made through AI. So they're having to make their own legal agreements to stop people doing it, because obviously they won't have to pay them. And I think this is also one of the problems they're having with the writer strikes, is that they're getting AI to write scripts now. And it's hideous. I don't like AI. I have my business listed on Google, and every so often Google Business will call me just to double check my opening hours are still accurate and nothing's changed. So you answer the phone and someone starts saying, "Hi, how are you?" And it says in a disclaimer, which I don't suppose everyone pays any attention to, and it says, this is AI, this is not a real human being. But it absolutely feels like you're talking to a human being, because it's, as long as you're not too complicated, it will answer your questions. But it's basically calling up to say, "Hi, are your opening hours still the same?" And you say yes, and it goes, "Great, thanks very much for that. Anything else I can help you with today?" And you think it's a real person because it's made with a real voice. It doesn't sound like one of those annoying computer voices that you often get on YouTube videos. And it's getting quite disturbing. I'm getting more and more suspicious of what I see on the internet. I am trusting Instagram less, because it's clear that some of the things that I'm seeing on Reels are AI generated. And I've seen some accounts that clearly state they are AI generated. There's one of Keanu Reeves, and it says that it's the AI version of Keanu Reeves. And you would think you were looking at Keanu Reeves. It's unbelievable. But it doesn't excite me. It makes me more distrustful. So that's definitely preying on my mind this week, and I'm trying not to read about it, and I'm trying to put it to the back of my mind. Always being careful, of course, because you need to be careful. Scammers are starting to embrace this new technology to find ways to try and get into your bank accounts and all sorts of things. And I hear some really disturbing stories about how they're using it to scare people and blackmail people into giving over their money. I feel really sorry for the kids today. I would hate to be growing up now. I think that the future is going to be... I mean, we worry about climate change, but I think you need to be worrying about things like AI more. I think the damage that is going to do is going to be at least as devastating as anything that climate change is going to do. So I'm hoping that I'll be gone before all that really kicks in. Unfortunately, there's a reasonable chance that I could be here another 50 years. I don't want to be, because that will make me quite old. And I'm not sure I want to be old. Old and independent. If I can be old and living in a cottage in the middle of the woods, internet free and safe, then great. Me and my rescued battery hens, that's the dream, and my little allotment. But if I'm old and at the mercy of the state, I don't want that. I don't know about you, but I don't want that. So yeah, interesting week. My seedlings are doing well, that's a good thing. Tomatoes are looking good. I planted some peas and they're looking quite good. Yeah, things are starting to come through, which is really nice. I've had to replant some broad beans because the slugs have eaten all mine outside. Well, not eaten all of them. I've started sprinkling some salt down just to keep them at bay, and it looks like they're Well, they're definitely trying to recover. I had none of this problem last year, but I put my broad bean seedlings out later, and we had that very, very hot spell, and I think that dealt with the slugs. It's been damper this year, and I've already had my broad beans out for a couple of weeks, and they've been munched on big time. So I've planted a few extra seeds indoors, which I will use to fill up the gaps, because I liked the broad beans last year. They're great for chopping up and sticking in the freezer. And I think I still have some from last year in the freezer as well. So that's been great. Yeah, so it's been a really weird one. I've decided to have a bit of a clear out. I've been hanging on to some of my favourite dresses and other garments. Wishful thinking, really, hoping that one day I will fit into them. But having looked at some of these labels, there's clearly no way I'm ever going to get back into them. And frankly, I don't know how I got into them in the first place, but I did because I used to wear these things. So I've pulled out the stuff that I'm okay with letting go. I've still got one or two garments that I just can't bear to part with. I've got a gorgeous bright yellow crochet dress, which I've had for years and years and years, and I bought it from New Look. And yellow's my favourite colour. And I can kind of squeeze into it, but it's not flattering. And I just emotionally can't get rid of it, because I love this dress. So I'm still hanging on to it for a bit, but I think it will go eventually. The problem is I've tried to sell things like this before and not been very successful. I used to sell, I mean, this isn't the sort of thing that I can sell on Etsy. This is clothes that are less than 20 years old. They come from the high street. So it's not like they're vintage or they're handmade or they've had much done to them. So I really need to get rid of them on a mainstream site. So I've gone with eBay, which I used to use eBay a lot, but it's not very good anymore. I find it really hard to sell stuff, but I've decided to be quite ruthless. I've put prices on and free postage, so we'll see how we get on. In fact, I have listed one item, which is this maxi dress. This is such a gorgeous dress. It's 100% cotton. It's an old New Look, which I've probably had 15, maybe more years. It's really beautiful. It's got a lovely elasticated back on it, but it does not fit me on the bust anymore. It's a shame, because the rest of it fits perfectly. I could cut it and make it into a skirt, but I can't be bothered. So I've listed this. I listed this yesterday, and already someone's put a bid in, so that one's going to go. I've also listed today, I've got some great little party dresses, which I used to wear, wore once or twice. I used to be one of those people who used to buy stuff, wear them once, put them away in the wardrobe, but I wasn't really good at getting rid of stuff. So this gorgeous little Stella Morgan dress, which, beautiful. I've seen one other on eBay at the moment. I wore this once. I love this dress so much, and I've occasionally seen it in shop windows. I think I saw it in a charity shop a couple of years ago. But I'm advertising this one. Again, really cheap, having a starting bid of about, I think I've put it on for a tenner, with a buy it now, I think of £13 or £14 with no postage. So although the price looks higher, I've got rid of the postage costs. I bought these things so long ago, I have no idea what I paid for them. I wouldn't have paid a lot, that's for sure. So anything I get back right now, and I just want to put the cash in the bank, really. So there's that one. I also have this little funky H&M number, which is a 3/4 length little chiffon summer dress in a gorgeous dusky pink colour. I love this dress, and it's okay. It's not great on my figure. The problem is I'm very hourglass, so I'm quite wide at the top and wide on the hip, but I've got a relatively small waist. not as small as it was, but when I put weight on, it also goes up in proportion, so I'm wider top and bottom and still relatively slim in the middle, and it just makes me look like a barrel. It's got a belt, but it still makes you look like a barrel. It's just not worth it. I don't think I've actually ever worn this, and I've had this years, so that's going to go. And I think this is a UK 10. There's no chance that I'm going to get into that. I bought these two little party dresses. They were on the sale rack in New Look, and it was one of their guest labels called Mela London. And again, I bought these years ago. Really cheap. I think on the sale rail they're about a £5. I've worn this one once. That one I've never worn. And when I bought them, they're a little bit too short. I don't like anything above the knee because I've got rugby players' knees. And so when I bought them, I bought matching colour lace and extended the hems. So as you can see, I've extended that hem by quite a lot, and that now just sits below the knee, so you can imagine how short these were. And this gorgeous little sequin number, which again also has the belt, was also a little bit short, so I added a lace edge to that. And it just gives them a little extra edge, and they're kind of fun, and it adds some inches to the length. So I'm getting rid of those as well. And again, I think I'd had these for years, and I think I wore this one about 5 or 6 years ago to a wedding. Might even been longer than that. I can't remember. It's been since I've been here in Greater Manchester. So yeah, they're going as well. And I've just been having a little look through and finding a few other things as well. I'm also going to sell this gorgeous little knit dress. I love this little dress, but it's above the knee and I can't really extend it. It's not got the right kind of hem for it and it'll look daft, so I'm going to get rid of that. I never bought this. This was bought for me by someone, and I suppose I could chop the bottom and turn it into a long top, but I don't wear anything nice anymore because I don't go anywhere. I've kept some key pieces in my wardrobe, which if anything comes up, I've got something formal for evening, I've got formal for going out to a restaurant, I can scrabble together enough smart clothes for, say, a funeral. But there's no point in me having nice stuff anymore because I don't wear it. I want easy wear. I don't like restrictive stuff anyway. I just want easy wear, comfortable summer wear if it's really hot. You know, I have got a couple of maxi dresses that I've still hung on to, but I'm not really a dress wearer anymore either. I have some nice harem pants and a few jumpsuits, and you know, I've got some nice bright colours and things. It's not like I wear all black and all jersey and all baggy. It's not like that at all. But I am quite a lazy dresser, really, just because what's the point? I don't go anywhere and I don't do anything. So there's that. And then the last thing which I'm getting rid of, which I had such an emotional connection to because I just adored this top. This is an AX. Again, this was a guest label at New Look years. I mean, we're talking donkey's years ago now. I've had this for such a long time, and it's just gorgeous. I love it. Buttons down all the way, actually, in this gorgeous ruffle top, and a gathered mid-back, so it pinches at the waist a bit, and these pretty little sleeves. But when am I going to wear this? It doesn't work for me anymore. It doesn't work for my body shape anymore. I mean, I could get away with it. It could be, you know, if you're doing a dress-up funeral. But funerals aren't really for dressing up, are they? I don't know. I might try this one on and have a think. But I haven't worn this easily in 15 years. I get these weird emotional connections to clothing. And I think a lot of it is because I do clothing design. There are just certain things which I just love. One of the good things about all the things that I am selling, what I'm putting on eBay, is that you can't get these in the shops. I'm not rotating my wardrobe every year. These dresses, like that maxi dress that has already had a bid on, I bought that at least 10 years ago, and I know that they rotate, and I've seen things that I bought 15 years ago back in the shops pretty much as the same design. There was a nice long chunky knit black new look, it was like a dress, but I used to wear it as a long top, chunky black knit, and I've had it years and I've still got it. Never wear it. It's too old to sell. It's too pilly. But I saw that in the shops 5 years ago. They just rechurn out the same old stuff, the same old rubbish. So I know that they do re-add things every so often, but they're practically vintage, some of those now. It's ridiculous. I'm going to show you that dress. I would give my right arm to be able to get back into this dress again properly. If I worked really hard, I could get back into this. But I don't think I'm going to be able to lose the weight. And even if I do lose the weight, my body shape has still changed a bit. It's not even that long. It is above the knee. But look at the crochet on it. It's just the most adorable little dress. So it only goes down to the knee. It's the colour. I bought 2 things in lockdown in 2020, and I haven't bought clothes in years, but I don't know what it was. I just had this urge to shop, and for some reason yellow was the in colour, which doesn't happen very often on the high street. So I bought that great big A-line sleeve chunky yellow jumper that you've seen me wearing on various videos that I've done, and I also bought a lovely silk jumpsuit from the same shop, from H&M. Floor length, wide palazzo pants with a tie belt, and I think it was a halter neck, or it might be like a t-shirt top, I can't remember. Just because it was yellow. And I went and joined their online app and I got a discount, so it was actually really, really cheap. And I can get away with wearing that because it's very wide on the trousers. It skims around my now massive hips. So I'm hanging on to that. I wore it, so I bought it in 2020. I wore it on holiday a couple of times in 2021. That's been it. It's not come out since. But I'm definitely going to hang on to that because I can get into that, and there's no genuine excuse why I couldn't wear that to, you know, a lunch out or a garden party or something, like anyone's going to invite me to a party. But yeah, so there's my bright yellow. I love my bright yellow. This is the colour to end all colours. With the price of everything still so high and still climbing, home baking is really important because it really helps to cut the bills. But when I'm doing recipes, I look for budget versions because there are some ingredients that are really expensive, and there are some ingredients which are still expensive but I happen to already have in the cupboard. So I tend to mix and match and see what works. Today I am going to be making a ginger cake, but I really like this recipe because it's an eggless ginger cake recipe, and eggs are so expensive now. Although I was in Morrison's the other day and they're now selling half a dozen free range eggs for 78p. I'm not sure how you can sell free range eggs for 78p. There's something going on there. It was their saver range, but even so, I'm very suspicious about that. But anyway, so what I particularly love about this ginger cake recipe is that you can just mix and match it. So I have made it just as a ginger cake. Last time I made it with ginger and orange rind. I'd kept the rind from some oranges that I'd had, and I put those in the freezer. They freeze really well, they defrost really well, and still perfectly edible. So I made a ginger and orange rind cake, which was lovely. This time I have decided to unbottle one of my jars of pears that I bottled last year. I was in Morrison's and they had lots of bags. I think it was 3 or 4 bags of pears, all really cheap. and fruit doesn't come up very often on yellow stickers. So I bought them all and I bottled them. So here is one bottle which I have undone, and I'm just letting those drip into a glass. I'm not going to throw away the juice, but it'll just get enough of the juice out so that the cake isn't too moist. And I'm going to add to that, instead of the ginger, I am going to have cinnamon, which is just simple, cheap cinnamon. And I'm going to add some raisins, because I think I bought these right at the beginning of the year. £1, half price on raisins. I've got several bags of these, but they last forever in the cupboard. So we are making a pear, cinnamon and raisin cake this time, which will be fun. It's a really simple recipe, but there are a couple of ingredients which you may not have. So I'm just going to slowly work my way through it and show you what I'm going to do. So first of all, you need 6 ounces of self-raising flour, or I tend to use plain flour, or it depends what I can get, but if I have plain flour then I just add some bicarb. So I need 6 ounces of flour. Which is not a lot of flour actually. This is not a huge cake, although I can easily make it last best part of a week. So we have the flour. Now we're going to add what would have been the ginger, in this case is going to be the cinnamon. So that needs to be half a teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm going to use one of these. Just pop that in there. Cinnamon now absolutely everywhere. Just blend that together. You can add more. I mean, when I do the ginger I tend to add more because I like a nice spicy ginger cake. But I'm going to stick with this because of all the other flavours that I'm putting in. Now I need to put in margarine. 2 ounces of margarine. This is literally all I've got left, and it's just fractionally under 2. Who cares? I need to go and buy more margarine. It's really hard to get margarine at a decent price now in a good sized pot. A big sized tub. What I've been doing is when I get Tesco gift cards, just going to Tesco and getting, they have a really big cheap 2 kilogram tub. Now I bought this quite some time ago actually, probably a good couple of months ago, and it's great for baking. I mean, it's all the blooming same, and I think I paid about £3.50 for that. But you can't get tubs like that in Morrison's or I think Sainsbury's. I'm going to have a look at Sainsbury's this week, see if they've got one. Otherwise I would have to drive to Tesco's, but I don't have enough left on my Tesco's gift cards at the moment. So I'm trying to hold out. This will be my last recipe using margarine until I can get another gift card, which should be coming out quite soon anyway, because I'm getting close to earning enough from surveys. Right, so we're just going to, it says rub in the margarine. I hate getting it all over my fingers though, so I just use a fork and just work it in. Just keep going round until it's reasonably well worked in. I'm a really slapdash baker, I'm not going to lie. It'll come out the same regardless. I'm not fussy about ingredients. The cheaper, the more available, the better. And I'm used to just mixing and matching ingredients and tastes to make something interesting. Because when you're only shopping for cheap things, only shopping for yellow stickers, and seeing the opportunities that come up within that, you just take advantage of it. And your brain just becomes hardwired to oh look, there's a thing, I'll get that, I can preserve that, and then I can investigate how that will work in a recipe. And I do that a lot now because it's really the only way to make things go far enough, and I really think that we've lost our cooking skills in this country. There are lots of people who can't function in the kitchen without a ready meal and a microwave, and it's really depressing. Okay, margarine's in. Sugar. I need 2 ounces of sugar. In goes the sugar. And then you need milk. Now, I am mostly using oat milk these days, or other plant-based milks, purely because I'm still getting them really cheap or free on cashback apps, and I will go wherever the cheap is. This stuff's fine, it's very nice in coffee. I have it in tea. These are now costing me about 50p, because if they're not free, they're 75% off, and I won't touch them unless they're that. So that works really well. Okay, so I need 6 teaspoons of milk. So we're going to do 6 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the milk. And then we need, right, let's mix that in first. And that goes. Which doesn't make it very wet. It'll just be kind of crumbly. And then we need to add bicarb, because I need that because I've only put in plain flour. I need 3/4 of a teaspoon. So that's a half. And there's the extra bit. And then you need 2 teaspoons of vinegar. I use whatever I've got. I happen to have white wine vinegar. I can't remember what recipe I used to have this for, but this stuff lasts forever because I rarely use it. So we need to put in 2 teaspoons of vinegar. One. You may find you get a fizzy reaction with your bicarb. I did. Stir that in. And again, it's still quite dry. For whatever reason, I don't know. So I'm just going to give that a really good mix. I've still got to put the pear in, so I think that's going to add extra moisture, so I'm not too worried about this at the moment. So I'm going to add my raisins now. I'm going to go big on the raisins. I love raisins in a cake. I love a fruit cake. Those, and now I'm going to add all this pear. There we go. It's quite chunky, the pear. Let's mix that in. This is still quite a dry recipe, which isn't normally what happens. So I think I might add, just going to add a little bit more milk. I'm just going to put a dash in. And this is very often how I work. If something needs a little bit of extra, I'll just throw it in, see what happens. But be cautious if you're adding extras like that, because you don't want it to be too wet. See, that little bit of extra milk has made all the difference now. There we go. There we go. I think that's going to be really nice. So now I'm going to put it into, I say a cake tin, it's actually a loaf tin. And once you put it in here, it won't look like there's very much in there, but this cake will rise. So I'm going to get all of this in here. I've pre-greased this tin, because although these tins used to be non-stick, they're really old now. I've had these for years. And there's no point in getting rid of things that still work. You can grease-proof line, but I prefer not to waste my money on grease-proof paper if I can help it. Okay, now I'm just going to smooth this in to all the gaps. And as that warms in the oven, that mixture will melt down and fill in the gaps. It's quite chunky, this pear. I should probably have chopped it down a bit, but never mind, we don't worry about things like that, it'll be fine. Once it starts to cook, it'll sort itself out. So that's how that now looks. Lovely. And that will go into an oven at 170 degrees. I have an electric fan oven, for 20 to 30 minutes. Now I don't bake in the oven or cook in the oven if I'm only doing one thing. Despite cutting back or thinking I'd cut back on my energy, and of course we're now well into spring, so there's no need for lots of things to be on. I've used slightly more energy than usual. Certainly when it comes to gas, so I used 1 unit more than usual for this time of year, and it might just be because I've blanched quite a lot of vegetables for the freezer, and although those don't take very long, when you're talking about units of gas, it could be the difference between showing up as 5 units used a month and 6. So that might be all that is. I haven't used anything excessively. So today what I'm going to do as well, I wanted like a pie for lunch. I've got 3 pies in the freezer, and I'm running down on lots of basics like meat products that I would normally put with a lunch. So I'm going to have a pie, so that's in the oven, so this will go in the oven, and I think I'm probably going to make another loaf of soda bread, and then I can chop that and put it in the freezer, or just use it over the course of the next week or so. So that's it. That is my, would have been an eggless ginger cake recipe, and actually has pear, raisins and cinnamon in it. I'm really looking forward to trying this one because I've never done it like this before, and I will show you the results at the end. Well, the cake's out the oven. It looks really good. I am going to taste a corner while it cools down. Oh wow. That's really nice. Oh, that is so good. Not an egg in sight. Nice budget recipe. Bottled pears I bought last year for next to nothing. All the other ingredients I have. This eggless ginger cake recipe is fantastic. I'm going to add it to the notes for this episode. Just the ingredients, and then you can just play around with it and do what you want. You could put anything in this. Really up to you. I might do a version with peach in it, because I often make a peach cobbler, or at least I used to, but it's very heavy on some of the ingredients, so this would be ideal for this. I mean, you could throw in anything you like, blackberries, probably strawberry, anything will work in this. And that's probably about 5 or 6 days worth of desserts for me. Spot on.